Hello guys, welcome or welcome back. My name is Sandra and today let's do the wrap up for the month of July. In all honesty, July was a mess. I really don't know what happened last month. I did read a total of 7 books or 7 titles in the month of July, but to be honest, there's one too many mangas and short stories, novellas. Yeah. I still had a good time, but I didn't get to read as much as I planned for the month of July, but it couldn't be helped. The first book I finished in the month of July was A Court of Silver Flames by Maas. This is book 4 in the ACOTAR series, and it follows the story of Nesta Archeron, the eldest Archeron sister, and this is about her struggles, her mental struggles as she adjusts to her new life, as she adjusts to being high fae in her new life, in her new space, and her love story with Cassian, essentially. So A Court of Silver Flames was a fast, fun read. I finished it very early in July because I started reading this and Elantris at the same time. But this one I finished very fast. It's very fast-paced, but there are very big problems with this book. I mean, it's a very long book, as you can see, and there's not much happening inside this book. So even though I enjoyed this book a lot, I enjoyed the reading journey a lot, but I ended up giving it only 3.5 stars because it does have some serious problems. I could see that the approach Maas has taken in this book is kind of new. I really liked how she tried to tackle mental struggles for Nesta and how she's trying to cope with her problems, with the issues that have actually piled up throughout the years. I really liked the way this book talked about that because it's not in the other 3 books. That theme is not present, but in this one I really felt it. I really enjoyed those parts, and I also really like the romance in this book. As I have said many times before, Cassian is my favorite guy in the whole ACOTAR series, but again, nothing essential or nothing of import to the whole plot happens in the story. It's like a middle book, nothing's really happening, but we're getting there. And I think this amount of page count was really a lot for that purpose alone. Of course, there are some things happening within the fantasy plots. There are items that we have to retrieve and a villain, essentially, that we're gonna face at the end, but it's not enough. It did fall short for me. But at the same time, it was fun to read about. It was very quick. It doesn't get you much time to go through, and I had fun. It was a good book. 3.5 is still a good, entertaining book for me. The second book I finished was Elantris by Sanderson. Elantris was published in 2005 and it was Sanderson's first published works. So before reading it, I was really curious to see how Sanderson has grown as an author. Even though I only read the Mistborn trilogy, Era 1, I still wanted to see where he came from in the beginning. So Elantris was the capital of Erelon, a gigantic, beautiful city filled with magic and people, these benevolent beings who had access to a vast amount of magic, and they had vibrant, silvery skin and white hair, and they actually used their magical abilities for the benefit of all. 10 years ago, something happened, the magic failed, and the Sheod was transformed, the power that gave these people their magical abilities. After that disaster, after the Rayod, the Elantris became wizened, leper-like, powerless creatures. They lost their powers, they became isolated in the city of Elantris, and very quickly Elantris became this filthy, powerless city that has fallen, and the people are very miserable. At this point, the story begins. We're following Prince Raoden, Princess Serene, and a priest called Wrathen. So I really enjoyed the story of Elantris. I thought the magic system was very unique. I thought the whole idea of the book was very interesting, was very, it has so much potential that I expected so much from it. I mean, even the synopsis is very catchy. I ended up giving this book a 3.75 stars. I wanted to give it a 4, but if I want to be honest with myself, I have to give it 3.75 because Sanderson has grown so much. Even if you just want to compare Mistborn with Elantris, you see a huge difference, and that's a masterpiece, and Elantris has to get a 3.75. With that said, Elantris is still a very good story. It does lack the execution that you kind of grow to expect from Sanderson, from an author like Sanderson, but it's still a very entertaining story. You'll definitely have fun with it. The growth you see in the author itself, how he has improved over the years, how his thought process has matured, it's really satisfying. Now, our 3 main characters, Prince Raoden, Princess Serene, and Priest Rathan. I really liked all three of these guys, but Princess Erin was my favorite. She has this kind of intelligence about her, and she's unique, she's outspoken. Even though the problems with female characters that Sanderson has is here, obviously, because it's an earlier work, I ignored that. It was fine. So Serene's part are those parts we have this political intrigue and we have this group of people who are fighting for the future of this country. And Sanderson does that really well, even though in Elantris it's not as mature as you expect. Things get accomplished easier, things get accomplished faster than you want them to. And I think Elantris is not a small book. I really wanted to have more time with the story. Maybe if we did have, I don't know, a couple hundred pages more, it would have developed better. It would have been a lot more satisfying. But again, it was still fine. Prince Raoden parts were concerned with the magical parts, and because of the pace of the story, we really didn't get to see the magic as much as we wanted, as much as I wanted, because the magic system in Elantris is very interesting. I really liked it very much, but because of the disaster and because the magic failed and the nature of the story, we can't see it very much. It's not a fault of the book. It's just where we are at this point in the story, in this world. I'm really looking forward. Maybe it will get expanded in the Cosmere. I don't know. I still haven't read many books from the Cosmere, but I'm hoping that maybe one day this also will get expanded because it's very unique and it's very fun. And the priest, Rathan, I think he's one of the most important characters because he's much more well developed. His character is deeper than the other two, even though he was not my favorite, but he was very interesting because he has these layers of personality. He's confused, he's struggling, he has this path he has to follow, but things happen. Overall, he's a very interesting character, Rathan, because I highlighted his quotes the most. He's that kind of character. But I also have to talk about the ending. I don't have any problem with the events that happened in the ending of the book. They were fine. I really liked the flow of the story, how the story itself got resolved. I really liked that. But the execution, it was problematic. Probably every other fan would say the same thing because it wasn't done very well. It wasn't executed very well in the story. At the end of the book, we were jumping around so much that it kind of get dizzying at times. Things are at stake, you're worried about everyone, but the method the author takes to take you through those events, it was a bit hectic and it could have been better. So that's why I had to lower the rating, just to be fair, because Sanderson becomes so much better at this. He becomes really good at wrapping up books. I really like that about him. But in Elantris, the skeleton is there, you see he wants to do that, but it just doesn't come together as well as you hope and as well as you expect. So immediately after I finished Elantris, I went and read the short story that follows it, The Hope of Elantris. I gave this one 3 stars. This was fine. It actually provides a little bit more information of the ending of the book. We have another POV added from the city of Elantris as the events of the ending are actually happening. This is another POV to give you more insight to what happened in the void that we don't know about in the main story. Alright, so after I finished the whole Elantris thing, I decided to pick up my manga read for the month, One Piece Volume 4, and I ended up reading Volume 4, Volume 5, and Volume 6. Because things are getting a lot more funnier. I'm getting really invested in these guys. I really like how the group is expanding and how it becomes richer and richer with each volume. I ended up giving all 3 of these volumes 4 stars because they deserve it and because I had so much fun reading them. It kind of uplifts your spirit. And in Volume 6, a new character is introduced, Sanji, which I already love, even though I haven't seen him very much. He's one of those characters that's gonna grow on you. Oh, and by the way, he reminds me of Jeha from Akatsuki no Yona of the Dawn manga, which I really like Jeha there too. Sanji seems like that type of character, even though I don't know him very much yet, but he gave me the same vibes, even though I think Sanji was first and Jeha came after. I'm not sure. So yeah, One Piece is going really well. I'm really excited to continue with the series. I definitely will. Last on the list was The Emperor's Soul by Brandon Sanderson. This one's a novella. You may have heard of it. This one happens in the same universe as Elantris, even though it's very subtle. The connection between this story and Elantris are very subtle that you might not even notice if you're not told beforehand. I gave The Emperor's Soul 4 stars because it deserved it. Reading this book, I was amazed at how much information Sanderson managed to put into this very tiny novella. Novellas are tricky at best, But in the fantasy genre, I think they're hardest because you have to introduce a magic system, you have to introduce a world, you have to introduce everything to the reader in a span of a little more than 100 pages, and Sanderson did it very good. This is one of those stories where you're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. There's so much underneath the story itself that's happening that you don't know about, and that made it rich. That made it really enjoyable for me to go through. The characters, Shayla and the other characters, are done rather well for a novella. You really get involved with the main character. You really get her anxiety. You really root for her in the task that she's given. You want her to succeed. But at the same time, I was really surprised at how did I get invested? I don't even know this girl. I really recommend reading this novella if you want to read more of the Cosmere, because even though you can skip it, I think, but it's so good. Why would you deprive yourself of such a good novella? And oh, the magic system. I really wished I could see the magic happening in this book, because there are things that are getting explained, but you kind of want to see it. It has that kind of vibe. You just want to be in the story and see what's happening. It's similar to Elantris, but at the same time, again, if I wasn't told, I might not have noticed. It has some of the structure of the magic system, but it's a different thing. But it's something new, something you haven't heard or seen in Elantris. I thought this could stand on its own very well. And Sanderson did a really good job with this one. It also has that format of day 1, day 2, day 57, day 58, I don't know, which gets you really involved in the pace of the story. So that was it for the month of July. I didn't get to read what I planned. I started the Graveyard book and I started Emily Henry's Happy Place, but I didn't get to finish either of these books in the month of July because I just didn't have enough time. Things happened, life was hectic, and I messed up. So both of these have been pushed to my August TBR and I'm enjoying them both at the same time. So tell me in the comment section if you read any of these books. If you have more recommendations for me, I'd appreciate that. Thank you for watching today's video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!